What is going on, family? Welcome back to yet another video here on the channel. I appreciate you so much for being here. If this is your first time, welcome to the family. You're more than welcome to check the links down below, which will be to our Discord, our Leverage Club, and our Leverage University resources where we house our life, personal development, business, and financial resources to lead you into evolving you into the best version of yourself. If you have been here before, if you're a client of mine, thank you so much for the continued support. I'd appreciate you if you would spread the good news and bring people into our community. Now, in this particular video, I want to get started right away and get you out of here as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We're going to go over our weekly analysis over our economy, the trading markets, our indexes, and what's going on with a couple of these just trending tickers that are absolutely going wild. People want to know about the Nvidias, the Teslas, the Apples, and we can keep going on and on about some of these companies that have just been spurring all-time highs or projected to recover from just deep falls into quote unquote despair, right? So I want to get to it. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Check the links down below. I'd love for you to join our community. And without further ado, let me go ahead and open up our first order of business, which is going to be over the markets. Let's jump into it. The S&P 500, I'm going to start here on Google Finance. We're going to jump into just a simplistic start for many of you. Let me move me over here. And we're going to look at the last week. What's been going on the last week here? The S&P over the last week has been up around 1.5%. The NASDAQ, or our tech index, 1.67%. The Russell 2000, almost 2%. Those are our small cap companies. Then we got the Dow Jones that has been, picking up a little bit of steam as of late. We can look here on the monthly. Still up over the last month, the last 6 months, just going absolutely crazy. Tech has been running, as you can see here with the NASDAQ, has been running our economy, but we've had some companies that have been picking up some steam that have been lagging behind, right? Over the last week or so, people have been just taking some profits, right? We had 2 red days on Thursday and Friday of last week. However, we still, they were very, very slight. If you can see here, Russell 2000 there, the S&P, the NASDAQ barely green in the last day, okay? Now, what do we have coming aboard? Let's jump into our economic calendar. We have some key data points that will be happening this upcoming week. And we do have a short week, all right? So we have a 4-day trading week because we have Good Friday here. But on Monday, we've got a couple of Fed speakers that should shake the market a little bit, but not too much. Then we've got 10 a.m. home sales. Those should be pretty, that news should be pretty decent as far as volatility in the market. On Tuesday, we've got consumer confidence and initial jobs claims per usual on Thursdays. Consumer sentiment pending home sales. So we can see here on Friday that even though we're not trading on Friday, we do have PCE that will lead into the following week, which is the start of a whole new month and a whole new quarter. All right. So this week will be a testament into how we lead into our Q2 and the remainder of the year. Now, what's been interesting about this particular market as of late is that we've had poor CPI data and PPI data. Those are our consumer prices and our producer prices, or our manufacturer prices. And we're looking at that data and we're trying to see how in the world can we sustain this if the cost of goods keep going up and up and up and up, right? Many of us are feeling the brunt force of it. However, it seems that Fed Powell and the Federal Reserve in general is looking at that data as not as effective in their projections or outlook on the economy, right? Their projections of these rate cuts that we've been waiting on. Now, they've already looked at 3 rate cuts and it seemingly has been already kind of priced in, but we could see further bullish nature leading into the end of the year. Now, these price cuts, these rate cuts have been projected to potentially start in the summer, but we're looking more towards the fall now. So they're trickling in. We'll see, right? We won't know until we know. But all that being said, that good news, that dovish, bullish news from our Federal Reserve continues to push this market higher and higher and higher. Now, if we continue to have this good news, these pullbacks that we're waiting to happen, right? Everyone's waiting on this massive, 2.5 to 3% plus pullback. And yeah, it might happen, but we can no longer time this because we are clearly in a bullish market. A lot of us, we've been looking at, being a little bit hesitant in the market. Our long-term portfolio is doing amazing, but as far as the trading day in and day out, a lot of people, including myself, have been a little bit hesitant about continuing to, chase calls or buy the long side for swings, right? Because we're looking at this and we're like, wow, this is just, it just keeps going. Like there's some point where it looks at being quote unquote overextended, and this is healthy, right? This is healthy. So what I'm looking at, and to summarize this and round this piece up, what I'm looking for in the coming weeks is, and what I've been doing has been trading lighter size or trading relative tickers day in and day out that have had healthy pullbacks or that have strong, relative strength to them, right? That have that volume behind them. All right. And we're going to jump into some of those today. I've been looking at some of the earnings reversals. We caught some of them in our community last week, and they could continue into this week. All right. So let's jump into our fear and greed index. Our fear and greed index, as I always remind everyone in this community, is a very simple way, especially if you're a beginner, to look at potentially where our market is in the short term and where it could go periodically, month to month, quarter to quarter, right? When we're in extreme when we're in extreme greed or greed, that is a time where our market is very healthy, right? That the people have bought up when everyone was fearful, and they've been holding their positions, and the market is green and everything keeps pushing up. But at some point, right, whenever it decides to happen, I always tell people that the time to purchase, when you're looking to purchase certain things at a heavier capacity, right, is when we're in extreme fear or fearful. Okay. So when people tell you, or when you hear news articles, or when you hear gurus or people, on the internet telling you that you should buy this and buy that and buy this, well, some names are at all-time highs. So yes, you can buy with your own due diligence, your own research in the companies that you like. But sometimes you want to make sure that you are not throwing everything when everything is overextended at their all-time highs, right? You can dollar cost average, maybe put 5%, 10% in. And then when it comes back down to neutral, put another 20% in. When it comes back down to fear and fearfulness in the market, right? That's when you want to throw potentially your discretionary income, right? That you might have to invest 50%, 60%, 70% into the market, right? So when those rate cuts start coming in, we may have a cool off leading into the rate cuts. And then as the rate cuts come in, then yes, we could have, this extreme fearfulness rise back up, right? That's just a prediction, right? So there is our fear and greed index. Okay. So for example, on Friday, we were in extreme greed at 76. Okay. And on Friday, we had a little bit of taking profit, right? A little bit of red in the market. So that 76 went back down to 72, right? It cooled off a little bit. So you can see the correlation when we jump on the charts between this and what's going on the charts. Okay. Let's jump into our earnings calendar for this week. We're starting to round out our earnings. It's starting to get into some smaller companies, starting to get into some of these biotech companies. So major on the list here, I think GameStop is just, hyped. So everyone points out GameStop typically. I'm not really paying attention to it. Anything else that sticks out to me here? Maybe Carnival, CCL. That's heavily traded a lot of times. Going to probably have some good volume there. Leading up to the summertime could pop potentially, but this is earnings from their Q4 season. So we will see what happens there. On Thursday, Hut, okay, Hut 8 with the crypto market. This is a crypto mining company there. Let's see anything else. Nothing that stands out to me, right? Nothing that's maybe Rumble, but nothing else stands out to me. If anything, as I always remind people in these videos, anything stands out to you on here that you've been researching or, that you like, more power to you. You can pay attention to see how they're doing. But when I look at this, from a trading perspective, I'm looking at where the companies have the most volume, those volatility, and their options. In my case, I trade options, right? Their options contracts look pretty good. Their spreads are tight, so on and so forth, right? If you all this, let's take a pause before we jump into the charts. If all this is making little to no sense, you feel like I'm getting lost, if you feel a little bit intimidated, I want to make sure that you are understood, right? If you're seasoned, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you feel a little bit weary, that is the time to jump into our community Leverage Club, Leverage University, with the links down below. I try to make it as simple as possible here inside of our Discord, right? So we have our trading floor, and inside of our university section, I do have some trading trainings where I have recorded and given all the insight on questions that most people, seasoned and beginners, have: how to navigate, introduction to options trading, how to set up your Webull chart. And for your just curious nature, I am looking to potentially put some of these trainings on YouTube just to get people started. So an introduction into how to set up a Webull chart, so on and so forth, with introduction to options. So look out for those. But until then, would love for you to join our Discord. All right, that being said, let's jump into the charts. The charts are where the money is made, and we can see how we're looking for this week. Okay, let me spread this out. Let me get rid of me. All right, here we go. So let's jump into the S&P 500 as we always do. Spread this, get this here. Perfect. All right, I'm going to start on the daily chart. Okay, our daily chart, you're going to see here, is extremely bullish. Okay, we got that good sentiment from the Fed, and we gapped up. And these last 2 days, last week, this day and this day here, we went from 511 all the way up to 521, and we trended to 524. So you're looking at roughly, we spread this out, roughly a 2.5% in 3 to 4 days, right? You're looking at about 2.5% in 2 days. So that is the type of nature we're looking at. Is every time we dip, right? Every time there's just a little bit of fearfulness in the market, like, don't know where we're going, right? We get bought right back up. And you can see right now we're in this little channel. Now, right before the Fed spoke, there was a little bit of turning of potentially where we're going here. You can see right there that there was a potential that, yeah, we could have came all the way back down. So this is that Fed news that just sparked us to all-time highs. Now we are sitting in uncharted territory, but extremely bullish territory here. So here are my levels that I'm looking for this upcoming week. Okay. Now, because it's a short week, I do believe the market potentially wants to squeeze out just a little bit more, potentially, of where it can go, right? We've got some relative names that are strong and they are recovering very nicely. So number one is we had this massive gap on SPY that needed to be filled, right? Back down to this 520 here. So I do project that 520, it looks like it's already filling overnight. You can see those after hours there, 520.75. So if we hold up 520, I could see us bounce off of this 520 level, right? But we'll have to see how we look in the morning. Okay, so I want to look out for this 520 level to see if that holds. All right, right around there, 520. We had a lot of buyers step in around 520 right here. We have that nice doji candlestick right there. And then we just trended up from this 520. So we could even dip down into 519. The lower, the better, right? But we do need to come back and potentially test this 518 level. Okay, I'll show you right here. Okay, so when we break out, as always, this is a simple break and a retest, right? However, we could come back and we really need to come back and test this 516. But as strong as the market is right now, buyers could step in very quickly around this 518 level right here. Okay, you can see it, that candle right there. So this 518.43, 519 level, right? I'm going to be looking at that zone anywhere just below 520. I'm going to be paying attention to that, getting balled up pretty quickly and coming down here and basing and then recovering and retesting the high. Okay. So that's a simple setup I'm looking for on SPY. So that would be calls in anyone's case that is looking for what type of play. I would be looking for potentially SPY calls if we get a base around 519, 520, or a reclaim of 520. We start breaking below 518. I'm going to just be patient, and you want to look for that 516 level. Okay, just a retest right there, that 516, holding that up. Okay, so you got 518, 516. And so be patient on Monday and wait for that potentially bounce opportunity off those two levels. Okay, let's jump into QQQ. QQQ has been showing a little bit of different sign here, right? Where we got a wider range. And QQQ has been showing strength as well. Okay. Now, QQQ did break out of its range here leading into that FOMC. So that was very interesting that QQQ held this range, or it kind of came back under this range. You see it's a little bit different than SPY here. Let me turn off VWAP. A little bit different than SPY, where it got pretty weak leading up into FOMC with Tesla, with Apple, with Microsoft getting a little bit weak, quote unquote. Microsoft obviously regained its strength very quickly. So what I want to look for on QQQ is holding up this 443 level here. You can see that it broke out of this 443.34 or 443 even, and we reclaimed it, held that 443.50, and then popped right back up. So I would love for it to hold 444 just to be a little bit more precise there. So if it holds up that psychological level 444, that would be great for a nice bounce opportunity, be a double bottom right there, and just come back up here and retest the high. Okay. Something like that. Obviously not as dirty, right? But you get the gist, right? Nice little bull flag right off there to retest the high and potentially get to that 450 psychological level, right? So that's what I'm looking for on QQQ. So you're more than welcome to take a look. Please, on your options contracts this week, we do have a short week, right? So pay attention to making sure you're taking profits. If you do play SPY and QQQ, I always recommend my clients, if you're not seasoned in this, a day to 2 day expiration on SPY and QQQ. So you're trying to trade on Monday, you'd want to pick the expiration on Tuesday or Wednesday and take your profit where you see it. It's less stressful. You do not have to play zero DTEs, and you can be profitable very simply, especially with this setup that we have. We have very clear levels, and it just looks good, right? Looks really, really good. All right. Let's jump into IWM. Okay. IWM is still strong, but I've been talking about this recently on this channel and on these market analyses that I don't really like personally that, it just ranges from, you got these big sweeps, right? I haven't really personally got a really good range on IWM where I'm personally comfortable trading it. But the levels that I've been charting out are this 203, 204 level, right? And then these highs 209. Ultimately, IWM, I think it's ready to take off personally. It reclaimed. It's been looking extremely bullish. It wants to get to that 212 mark, 220. Okay. So if you trade IWM, the small cap companies, watch for this area right here, which is going to be that 203, 204 area. Okay. 203, 204 for calls. Okay. Watch that hold. Obviously, if you come down here to this 201, you can even draw your trend line from the lows. You can see there that as long as that trend holds, it could be pretty nice right at that 204 area to bounce to go back up to the highs. Okay. So there are indices. There are our indices. Let's jump into a couple of relative strength names that first of all, let's just touch right on Nvidia. Okay, let's touch right on Nvidia. Nvidia just absolutely has been on a tear. Now, does it have room to go higher? Everyone's speculative if it's going to 1,000. With this structure right here, right? I was a little, I don't like to bet on strong companies like this. Excuse me, bet against strong companies like this. I personally was just looking for a bigger pullback, but it's Nvidia, right? So I was looking more so for this, 822 level to come back and fill this gap, come down here. But with that news from the Federal Reserve, it just gave Nvidia permission to come out of this bull flag triangle right there, right? Create a nice hammer candle on a daily on the 20th and just absolutely take off from 904, held that 904, broke out, retested, and then pushed all the way up to almost 950. So that $50 move in roughly 2 days is absolutely just bullish. Okay. And it finished strong too, right? There wasn't a big sell off on Nvidia leading into the weekend. So all this looks like is another flag forming on Nvidia to potentially come back to this maybe 935, right? Shoot, I'm already personally in some swings on Nvidia. I called it out in our community. Okay. So I personally wanted to add to this position, but you can see here that this level 935, 936, right? Anywhere around this 935, 936 area, right? Could be a nice area for Nvidia to just absolutely bounce, hold this level, and then trend higher, especially as we said with SPY and QQQ coming down into demand areas. So as QQQ comes down into this demand, it holds and then recovers and starts bouncing. That's going to push Nvidia back into new highs. Okay. Okay. Not all-time highs, but just new recent highs. Okay. So my game plan on Nvidia is to continue holding my current swing that I'm in right now. And if it starts getting bullish again, yeah, I do believe Nvidia has the potential to retest this high easily and then go to this 1,000 mark. If you see on my screen that I have marked up, and that's Nvidia's ATR or average true range that it moves in. You're talking about $20 to $50 easily in a day. Okay, $20 to $50 easy in a day. So if you're multiplying that, you do the math, it's not too far off from 1,000. Okay, if it continues to trend. All right, but I'm gonna be playing it day by day. It's a short week, so I want to make sure I manage that position because that does expire this week at the end of the week. So I want to manage that position properly. And if it gets strong, great. I'm just gonna hold and take the profit, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay. So there's Nvidia. Let's jump into AMD. Let's just go through a couple of the semiconductors. Then I'll get everyone out of here. Okay. I like AMD a lot personally. Had this nice double bottom here, right? It had a nice downtrend coming down, broke that 184, couldn't hold the 184. However, we came down into this nice demand zone yet again where it bounced pretty heavily off this 173, 175. You see all this demand recently right around that area. You see how many buyers have stepped up right around this 174, 173 area, and we double bottomed. Okay. So that is a bullish sign. Let's see if we can find any other bullish signs here. Let me turn on the RSI just to take a look, see if we see anything else. Nothing that stands out too drastic here. Okay. Sometimes I look for maybe on this 4 hour, we could see a little bit of a bullish divergence, maybe right there. Right. So bullish divergence, for those that don't know, is when you have a divergence on the charts that comes down, right? We have lower lows, and then we have higher lows on the RSI. Lower lows, higher lows, a bullish divergence, which will allow this to trend back up to the highs. So I like AMD. I like the semiconductors this week as they have been getting beat down, but beat down to a point where they're back into a heavy buying zone for short term. Okay, short term. And this is more so for trading. Now, should you pick up shares at this area? Yeah, you're more than welcome to, right? I always remind people that if you like the company, if you've done your due diligence, right, we are still overextended on the semiconductors. However, this is a nice, anytime you can get a red pullback this hefty of 227 back down to 170 underneath 180, right? Yeah, that's a good buying opportunity, right? Now, where do you load up on AMD if it does happen? You load up when it starts filling these gaps down here back to 150, right? That'll be a retest of these highs here or back down to 130, right? That's when you load up right there. But up here, who knows when that'll happen? If it does, right? Who knows? We don't have a crystal ball. We can only trade or invest on what we see day in and day out. Okay, so take a look at that. There is AMD for you, and I'll be looking for calls if AMD personally can break above and reclaim 180. If it can reclaim 180, I think it'll personally jump back up to 184 very easily, and then maybe trend back up to this 187. Okay, so I do like AMD at these levels. Now, final thing on AMD for my people that like um, structures, market structures. Is this an inverse head and shoulders? It's not as clean as I would like, so I wouldn't consider it. But yeah, you consider this maybe an inverse head and shoulders, which is a bullish sentiment for those that are fairly new. Okay, so you're looking at that. Let's jump into SOXL. SOXL is the bullish semiconductor leveraged ETF. Okay. You can see there three times ETF bullish nature. So I always look at this as more of a long term buying shares, but it is good to trade, right? I have signaled this for my small account individuals that want to trade in the semiconductor sector, right? So this does look really nicely. It follows along very similarly to what Nvidia does, AMD does, and this almost looks ideal for a nice bullish flag at a demand. Okay. See this 45 area, 45, 45, 45, 45, and then coming right back here to double bottom potentially at this retest of 45, break back up, retest the high 48. So you can look at 45 calls, 46 calls if you'd like on SOXL as weeklies. Okay. If you like to trade. Okay. So I'll be coming in here. Here's my options chain. This is a week coming here. Those 50 calls, you're more than 48 calls, has a lot of interest and volume on them already. Obviously, this is not live when the market's open, so this easily can change on the volume and open interest. But take a look at both of those. Okay, SOXL, AMD, Nvidia. All right, jump into Microsoft. Actually, let's jump into Apple. Okay. Apple's just been getting beaten down from this news. I think it's, very interesting personally, but Apple's not going anywhere. And every time it gets beat down into these demand areas, it gets bought up very quickly. But how I've been personally trading Apple, or we've been signaling inside of our community, is personally just, dollar cost averaging into some shares. We do have some community members that do trade Apple very regularly. I do every once in a while when I see volume or I see it at an area that I like. I usually like a little faster movers. I like big moves. I like the $8 to $10 moves personally, but Apple contracts move very, very well. So I just be careful with Apple personally. It came up into this kind of bearish flag back up in this 178, had that negative news, and we could see Apple, just recover back up to the highs here, right? So yeah, you could play calls on Apple, but you just need to have your take profit areas very clean. Okay. So Apple really, for me, needs to reclaim that 174 yet again. Okay. What we were waiting on forever. Okay. See, this zone is back into this zone, and then it reclaimed and then just trended back up to the highs. So I'm not a big fan of this chart personally for like a good setup, right? You can see there just the channel that it's in currently right now. Okay, so it's back into this channel. Let me get rid of these lines. But I do like this, kind of hammerish, higher low buyer stepped in right here on this. So yeah, I do like it. You just need to have your take profit levels. This isn't yet, in my opinion, right, one of those big swings where Apple's going back to 196 immediately. Okay. So just be mindful of that, that if it breaks above 180, yeah, right, it starts basing above 180, then yeah, we could see it easily trend back up to 186. Okay. But I'd rather see it hold for a day above 180, close above 180 up there. So, all right, there is Apple. Let's jump into Tesla. Same thing, sentiment with Apple. Buying shares of Tesla, buying TSLL shares at these levels. It's in a consolidation buying zone. Okay. Is Tesla done? I personally don't think so. I think we've been talking about it for a minute, that Tesla, I mean, I personally think it's got below 160 in it. However, we'll just have to wait and see, right? It just, every time we have a nice day that everyone thinks that Tesla, they can time Tesla and it's going to trend all the way back up to 200 plus, right? It gets knocked right back down. It just keeps forming bearish flags. So with Tesla, what I've been doing when I'm trading it is just trading it day to day, right? Whatever the levels are in that time period, trading it day to day, taking nice profits and getting up out of there. Okay. So Tesla, here are some levels. If Tesla breaks back below 170, okay, for whatever reason, if Tesla just can't hold this 170, 173 area, I mean, you could see there that it got rejected pretty heavily at this area. So I would personally be looking for maybe puts on Tesla if we start seeing weakness back up under 170, right, for Tesla. So if it pushes up in this 172, 173, that's, signals for another potential rejection. You see here that at 173 used to be a support base, all right? 173 broke above 173. Cool. We trended back up to 178. Look at these rejections here once it broke down below 173. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at on Tesla, is that 173 area. Is it going to break above 173? Then great. We can take that on the upside, and then this can turn to green. And that is an opportunity for calls back up. All right. So that's what I'll be looking for on Tesla. But until then, turn this back red for a game plan and see what it does. All right. And where would I be trying to take Tesla? I'd be trying to take it back to the lows. Okay. I'll be trying to take it back to the lows if it can get there. Okay. So if it can't hold 170, starts breaking below back underneath 170, I'll be looking to take it back down to 160, 164. Okay. So there's my game plan on Tesla. Google's been holding up very, very strong, right? It got that really good news with Apple, right? So Google looks like it wants to retest this high, but it's really been it's still at a double top here. I'm not liking Google's chart unless it breaks above 153. Okay. Above 153 or 152.15, anywhere above this with a solid candle close, I'd really want Google to break above 153, and then we can take that retest of 152. Okay. So that's Google, but it is holding up very nicely here above 150. Okay. So I'm going to keep this green for now on Google, that it is still strong. Okay. So I'll be looking for Google calls above 150 to hold. Can look at that to trim back up to 153, or just break up 153 is, I think, the better trade. And then taking the retest of 152, break, retest, take the calls back up all the way to 155. All right. Now, the interesting thing that I would point out on Google here is if I put it on a daily, you can see there's still resistance at this 153.78. So probably even a better trade would be break above 154. Okay. People seeing how this is going is, if you're new to this, breaking above 154. Now, that's on the upside. I like personally Google to come back, fill this gap, and we take a bounce at 143. So that's why I haven't been touching Google. I think Google's contracts move very, very well, but I personally don't want to chase these highs anymore. I'd rather it pull back into this gap fill and then take it back up. All right. Jump into Meta, levels on Meta. I've been leaving Meta alone personally. I like trading Meta, but it's just been, I don't really like this chart. Me personally, I don't like this chart. And what I mean by I don't like this chart is it's just overextended. We gapped up, we keep pushing, we gapped up, we keep pushing. I don't like that type of movement. I'd rather have, gap ups, nice pullbacks, nice swings back and forth so I can, have clear levels to go off of. So personally, I'm not a big fan of Meta's chart. You're more than welcome to trade it if you do. Let's jump into a couple of notable names and I'll get us out of here. Lululemon. This was the trade that our community took for a nice earnings reversal, and this still has room to potentially go. Okay. So you see here that Lululemon got knocked down pretty bad here, but they did not have poor earnings. Right. That was the thing. They did not have poor earnings. So you see here that it just gapped down to this demand area at 387, 388, reclaimed 400. And now we need to see Lululemon kind of hold above this kind of 405, 407 area. And if it can start building again, right, or we can get another double bottom, right, then yes, we can push up through this gap fill, come all the way back up here past 410, and then take it back up. So I like Lululemon calls this week, in the money, just outside the money, and then take your profit. So Lululemon looks really good in my opinion, still on the upside for a nice earnings reversal recovery. All right. Scan here. Walmart. Not a big fan. The banks. JP Morgan, which is absolutely killing it. Okay. So I've been trading the banks lately, but JP Morgan, it looks like a little hanging man at the, not a great close there, but it still could hold up this 196 level where it bounced last time. Could be a double bottom or retest the high, but still a little overextended. You can see on a daily there how that looks. Went from 200 back down to 196. So turn on the moving averages here. See where we are on a daily. Yeah. Banks need to cool off a little bit. We could get JP Morgan back down to 193, that 9 EMA on the day. Okay, daily 9 right there. And then we could bounce and go. So just pay attention to banks as well. It's about it personally. That's about it that I see this week. Some names I've just been watching. Netflix, just been running and running and running. Looks like it's bull flagging again. We could see Netflix break above 630 and then retest the high, and ultimately Netflix is gone. So Netflix personally is a great thing to trade when you can catch it. Their contracts absolutely move, but I we'll have to see. But this chart looks amazing. I mean, it looks like a nice little bull flag here, and break above these highs 630, and we're back at highs up here just off to the races. So yeah, Netflix looks really good leading up to their earnings as well, which is in April. Yeah, in a couple of weeks, I can see Netflix just trending all the way up into their earnings. So yeah, I want to pay attention to Netflix. It's going to be a top watch right underneath the video. All right. Any small names that I've got here? Still keep your eye on just some watches. Snowflake. Okay. Snowflake, still a great earnings reversal play. Okay. This is what a good swing looks like, a good healthy pullback. You're looking at almost, 30+%. So when you consider bearish, right, this is what a bearish move, a true bearish move over 20+%, right? So when you're looking at that, you're like, man, like this is what we call a great buying opportunity for a really solid company in the data cloud software sector. Okay. And where could it go? It could go all the way back to retest this high, 237, and ultimately all-time highs was at $429. So this is what a great buying opportunity for shares look like on Snowflake. Now, obviously, always a disclaimer. I'm not recommending you to buy, sell, do anything in here in the markets, but I do recommend you take a look. You can see what I'm seeing. Okay. So Snowflake, great buying opportunity, but also a great trading swing opportunity as well. Looking at Snowflake at these areas. Now, I've been looking personally at leaps on Snowflake. You can look at, where is that, January 2025. They're a little bit pricey, but for $1,000 for Snowflake to recover in the next year, I think it's possible. But day trading for a nice swing trade could be back into June, and looking at those contracts in the money, right? As far as a weekly day trade, I would go at least 2 weeks out on Snowflake. You could look at a weekly, but going for like closer in the money on Snowflake if you decide to trade it. But there's a couple of weekly contracts this week, right in the money, not bad at all. Their contracts move amazing. So those 160 calls could move for $254. If it moves $3 or $4, there you go. You can see where it potentially could go. So you're looking at about $100-something per contract that's moving $3 to $4. Okay. So there is my summary. Let me go through really quick. I know I keep saying really quick, but I want to make sure my crypto people are served. Okay, Bitcoin still holding up this weekend. Looks like another bull flag here. So we could look at Coinbase holding this 245 area up. Coinbase has been moving very, very nicely as of late. So if it holds this 250, great. That's just the level it wants to hold. I personally would love it back to 245, but if it just wants to hold 250, that is another opportunity for a bounce to recover all the way back up to the highs. Okay, so Bitcoin looks like it's bull flagging again and retests 70,000, another 4,000. So we'll see what it looks like in the morning, but keep an eye on some of the crypto names. Mara, yeah, not liking Mara's chart as of late. I really haven't been liking trading the mining companies, just buying shares of the mining companies if you believe in crypto sector, and all some of the altcoins that we talk about inside of our community. Okay. Nike, another good earnings reversal potentially. Same thing as Lululemon. So keep an eye on Nike. This is a great buying zone for Nike here in demand, right at around $90 in the low 90s. Okay. So that looks like it is it. That looks like it is it. This is the third touch of a trend line too. This could be nice. 1, 2, 3. All right. That could be really nice actually. So, all right, everybody. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for these last, however long you've been on here. I'm not even sure how long this is, but until next time, please make sure to like, subscribe, give a comment down below what served you best in this video. And if I can serve you more, check those links. See you in the next one. Peace.